Hello, good morning everybody. How are you today? I hope you well as always. Well, in this good occasion, I would like to tell you about the material of discourse analysis, that is, discourse and semantic. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Niputunita Ayu Cahyani. I'm as the first speaker in the group 1. Alright, for the first, I would like to share to you the general meaning of discourse and semantic. Discourse analysis is the study of language in use with the context. It is concerned with the relationship with the meaning and the context. And the context here can be social context and cultural context. And if we talk about the context is the situation or the topic which is being discussing at that time. And discourse analysis also deals with the cohesion aspect of microlinguistics such as phonology, morphology, syntax, semantic, and pragmatic. And if all of these aspects combined become one, we can achieve the meaning of the utterance or the text, and we can connect each other. And then for the meaning of the semantic, that is the study of language, which is concerned with the meaning. And in general, we know there are two general meaning. For the first one is denotative meaning, and then the second one is connotative meaning. Denotative meaning is the real meaning based on the dictionary, but connotative meaning is an implicit meaning. Alright, and there is the relationship between them. Discourse and semantic will discuss about some expression and utterance which is depend on the context, and the essential idea of discourse and semantic is to analyze the relationship between meaning and the context, and it also can help us in determining the words, phrase, and the sentence. Alright, according to the Handbook of Discourse Analysis, there are some linguists who is overview about the discourse and semantic. For the first is from Bloomfield in 1933, who is popularized the behaviorist view of linguistic semantic. He stated that the situation in which a speaker uttered an expression and the response it called forth in hearer. Actually, behaviorist view is the study of how the human behavior related with the human affair. It also related with the consciousness, with the perspective, idea, and mind. And then for the second, about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, who state that the degree of which our language determine our perception, often discussed under the heading of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And from this hypothesis will be arise a question about the relationship between language, meaning, culture, and personality, which remain the central concern of semantic theory. As we know, semantic theory known as the speak as well, and which is consists of three parts. The first one is locationary, illocationary, and pre-locationary, and three part of this speech at will be discussed after this material. Alright, and in here we already divided. Our material became 8 parts, but now I just focus to discuss about shifting paradigm and indexicality and anaphora. Alright, for the first about the shifting paradigm. Thomas Kuhn is an American physicist and philosopher in 1962, defined the shifting paradigm as the fundamental change in the basic concept experimental practices. And shifting paradigm also can define as the set of theory and idea. It is designed by the member of the certain scientific community, which is the scientific community here we can call as an linguist in this case, and then the whole technique and value that they already get will be shared in this community. It means that the technique and the value that already get will be accumulate become one, and then it can be a fundamental or can be a concept for the other linguists while they face the problem during doing some research about the linguistic and then According to the Austin in 1962, uh, he already composed the book entitled How to Do Things with Words. On his book, he points out the large number of utterances are part of an action and they are performative. And you can see in this example here, there is a lion in the savannah. Actually, if we see, this sentence is true, but in this case, especially in semantic, this utterance likely to be understood as a warning, even actually this statement is true, because according to the statement from Austin before, the utterance are not used to state the things, but it actively to do things. And then Austin also states that such utterance can be assessed as true or false, like this sentence, but this sentence pretend to appropriate and inappropriate, and this sentence is appropriate as a warning if somebody said this for us. And then this theory also done and manifested by the speech act theory and semantics. Alright. Greece in 1974-75 also proposed and called the implicature as a way of keeping the logical analysis clean and simple. And this is the example of the implicature. We can see from this example, if A answer this statement, you can say it again with the discourse analysis at school again, which mean that he or she repeated again. This is inappropriate answer one, because the statement you can say it again, it's contain the implicator meaning, and the implicator meaning in this dialogue is B is agree that discourse analysis is cool, and instead of saying yes I agree with you, B also tend to use implicator meaning on this statement and say you can say it again. Alright, and next about the indexicality and anaphora. Uh, Indexicality also closely related with the dixis, which is denote the behavior or the utterance whose meaning varies according to the certain feature of the context. For the example, now, here, I, and etc. It also demonstrative may be thought of as forming a subset of indexicality, and sometimes it also accompanied by pointing gesture or non-verbal expression such as that and this. And then indexicality also can be used as an alternative way to understand reference concept of semantic and the way we understand the language and communication in general. For the example is in gender. Gender can be indexed by the stand one or by the gesture of the people adopt, whether physical or linguistic. And the example we can see here, in physical, the conventional meaning of feminine we can see from the woman gesture, that is hand on hip with body bend, and the conventionally of masculine we can see from the man gesture such as thumb in pocket, standing straight and with the leg apart. And from the linguistic as well, we can see the conventionally of feminine, uh, she has a high pitch or lips in soft tones, but the conventionally of masculine tend to have deep tones with the narrow range and low pitch. Alright, and for the next, we will talking about the anaphora. Anaphora is the expression whose interpretation depends upon another expression. And according to the Hames, in 1983's approach state that treating all anaphora as a discourse anaphora solved the problem associated with the treating pronouns. And some linguists which have done the discourse about the anaphora, they are Halliday and Hassan in 1976, who state that cohesion arises by virtue of the relationship between two or more meaning in a text. From this example, we can see that the word them here is the example of the plural pronoun, and in the second sentence here can be interpreted as the referring back to six apple. It means that the pronoun them here can be refers to the six cooking apple, and the backward dependency here is known as an anaphora. Alright, I think that's all that I can share to you about two of the material now, and then for the next material will be continued by Yugi Astari. Thank you.